Welcome back to Portimao RPL. It's been 2 seasons in the making, and we are back for the circuit once again. The last 3 times we've ran here, and the only 3 times we've ran here, we've had qualifying or the race have some sort of rain in the event. We'll find out if it happens once again tonight, but last week it was a rain-filled event in Singapore, and qualifying and in the race. It led to Eoin McMoran taking pole position and the race victory. We have a lot of changes to go through, but Titan, the championship, can be won today in the drivers and the constructors. Let's find out if it happens. And if it does, it'd be, what, 6, 7 races early? Quite early compared to usual.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be quite the unique spectacle, to say the least. Both championships are up for grabs, drivers and constructors. Will it be won tonight, or will it be forced into another week? Anything is possible as the season is winding down to the end. Um, as for the formalities on how the championships can be won, I will leave it to you on that one.
Well, I'll go over that in a little bit once we get in and settled in. The thing I want to go over now is some of our big headlines. We have a lot of things to look forward to or to talk about for tonight's event. One of them being that driver of the Red Bull, alongside Cookie, Reese Dainty, has a race ban for the event. He accumulated way too many penalty points. We'll talk about that in just a moment. That creates some spice because the first driver that gets called up to Red Bull is HSR Gecko, and he won this race in Tier 2 the last time we were here, and set pole position by 6/10. So he was pretty strong for Ferrari back then in Portimao in Tier 2s running at this race last season. A big change, though, comes from the Merc and Alpine camp with their academies. So their changes were supposed to happen next season. However, they've come a little early. Miniko is going from Mercedes to McLaren. Jack is going from Alpine to Aston, meaning Cam goes from Aston to Mercedes. Cam basically not showing up the past few weeks, got a promotion in the process, but they're going to what their lineups were going to be for next season. In the meantime, Cryptic dropped down from the team principal role of Red Bull. He is a reserve now for the team. He's making his first start tonight since Canada, but he's been loaned out to Alpine. Cookie is another Red Bull team principal. Zakaria, the Red Bull co-TP. Dom, the only driver this week that got confirmed for next season. He's going to be full-time in Haas. Invade is the Ferrari Academy assistant. FE is no longer a tier in RPL. We sadly had to shut it down. We've got a new rulebook. F124 beta is something that's been discussed very widely in the server. So in the meantime, let's talk about some drivers missing last week and loans. Last week was a rain-filled event. The 3 drivers on podium included Blonde, who's back for more at McLaren this time, NRM KVS after the penalties got applied from Miniko and Reese, and Eoin McMoran won the race for Aston Martin. 135 races since their last victory and 178 races since his last victory. Lots to look forward to. Your loans for tonight's event and reserving appearances: J&T Gaming, championship leader at Tier 2 in Alfa Romeo. George Alp Williams, he's an AlphaTauri. We'll talk about him with his antics in Tier 2 a little bit later. Jordan is in Alfa Romeo, getting loaned out there. Mentoki, she's making her debut start here in Tier 1 in Williams. And I believe from everybody else, that's about it. But a big change with the Miniko, Jack, Cam area with Mercedes and Alpine in their academy. And also, it's big that Reese has a race ban because you're going to have Gecko alongside Cookie, who won this race in Tier 2.
Yeah, this is going to be quite an interesting event. As you mentioned, Reese having to serve a race ban. I believe this is the second time in his entire Tier 1 career I recall that he had a race ban to deal with. I believe it was season
Last season.
7. Oh, was
Last
last
season
season
too.
he had?
Yeah, last
Oh,
season
okay.
too, yeah. Might have been
Oh,
3 times
okay.
then if it happened in
That's
season
3
7
then.
as well. Wow.
I remember
Last
season
season
7 or
it's probably
season
gotta
8
be.
he had one.
It was season 8, so 3 seasons in a row.
That's just
Wow.
unfortunate. I mean, to be fair, some of the stuff that he wound up getting himself into was a bit unfortunate. I mean, the last penalty that he got was he just slightly overshot the pit entry, cross back onto the track, and just continued on for another lap. He was reported, and the stewards did penalize him for it, and therefore that's why he has the ban. But right now, looking at this field, we have 18 here. We could have a 19th, but apparently he's been pinged multiple. Oh, never mind. I was gonna say he pinged multiple times, but it's an answering. But Scyther is gonna be showing up in a little bit. He is the one driver missing, and that is pretty much it. There's no second Haas, but this will be interesting.
NRM KBS missing. Barney, Skither for now. He'll join in. Reese we mentioned already prior. We have as well Wavy, who'd usually be reserving in the other Williams. This time it's Mintoki. He's missing. Luke Range missing. Hunted 24 hours ago was in the hospital, which was mentioned in Twitch chat. We are glad to hear that he is out of the hospital from what it sounds like. And not feeling up to it. He was supposed to reserve in the Alpine, which is why Cryptic is in there for tonight. But Cryptic making his second start of the season. Nice to see Cryptic here. I think he took a pole position here back in Season 8 with the running of Portimao the last time we were here. So good to see him back, but glad to see Hunted at least out of the hospital and much more safer. So, Titan, before we get to qualifying laps, I want to mention the championship scenarios. Cookie needs to win this race with Skither finishing 8th or lower without the fastest lap. TB needs to beat Cookie, and there are no ties that can be made there. As for the Constructors' Championship, Red Bull need to outperform McLaren, getting both cars up there in the top spots, whereas they don't need to outperform Mercedes by much, only 4 points, and Ferrari need to beat Red Bull to stay alive. So those are your championship scenarios from tonight's event. And one question that was, well, not really a question, one thing that was mentioned in chat is that George is allowed to race. Wow. Well, he had some antics yesterday in Tier 2, and here's the interesting thing about it with his antics. Zakaria had similar antics, if you remember, 2 seasons ago in Hungary, Tier 2, but raced the next day in Tier 1 Qatar. However, his race ban and rest of the season ban, which it ended up becoming, ended up being applied after the weekend was over. So I'm guessing whatever George is going to get himself into with what happened in Tier 2 will come after this event and not during. Similar to Zakaria.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, literally with George, if to those that haven't seen the Tier 2 race, which was at Cody yesterday, feel free to check out the RPL YouTube channel. It's if you type it in the search bar, it is RPL Formula 1. It is quite wild to watch, to say the least. But yeah, George is looking at some severe trouble possibly coming his way, and as noted in the Discord, there is a possibility that a record could be broken, because at this exact track back in season 16, Egg, who is in
F2
Williams
by the way
tonight, in F2, racked up 16 penalty points in that event, and that is the current record for the most penalty points achieved in one single event. And George could possibly be smashing that record, potentially, but that is up to the stewards. Speaking about with Portimao, there has been, as I mentioned about with Egg and F2, there have been quite a bit of controversy over the last, over recently. Take back to Season 7, when TB and Jacob's rivalry came to a cataclysmic, a cataclysmic climax when they wound up getting together and causing a wreck. And also the Haas of William Casper being discovered as a cheater after that event and was subsequently banned from RPL. But in a bit of a positive note, I mean, we'll just take it with this guy who I'm currently on board with, Cookie, as he goes through turn number 5 right now. The last time he raced in Portimao, he was in an Alfa Romeo and started on the front row.
Yeah, that's because that qualifying session in Q3 ended up being mixed conditions there at the end, being all sorts of whack with the intermediate tires, but a drying track. And Yeah, that allowed him to get a really good qualifying. 51.4 from him. We'll watch laps in just a moment. But as we mentioned prior, Cookie can win the championship tonight. He has to beat Skither by 22 points. As for TB, he has to beat Cookie. That's the only way that can be clinched for tonight's event. Cookie, though, around Portimao, pretty good so far with Season 8's running. And now Season 10's running as he comes to the final corner to go fastest. 16.3, 4/10 ahead of Jack, Cam, TB, J&T running out of top 5. J&T also had a really good qualifying effort here in Tier 2, getting second place in qualifying for Ferrari. That was a really good qualifying from them, considering they locked out the front row. Let's go on board with another Ferrari driver. How about the Chiller this time? We're going to watch him because he actually won this race, if I'm correct, back in Season 8, the last time we ran here. He won this race on track, lost it after the penalties were applied, and then won it back in the stewards room. How crazy is that?
Yeah, it was a very wild night in the steward's office that in that race. It was kind of wild to say the least. The Chiller thought one of his penalties was not fair. He appealed it, and the appeal team actually saw it as the Chiller noted, and it got taken away. And the Chiller did get it back, did get his win back. And speaking of which, by the way, so far for Q1, the Chiller's sitting on the front row at the moment.
Yeah, the Ferrari should be a lot more closer to the Red Bulls around this circuit, especially considering what we saw in the Tier 2 running of this race. Andreas now coming through the final sector. Let's go on board with him and see how he tackles this section. Lots of lines, lots of sweeping corners around this track. Andreas not had the best of runs as of recent, but this is a good place to turn things around. As we've noted before, you had, obviously, TB and Jacob who collided. That was a part of your academy at the time, Titan. So, of course, it's easy to have stuff like that you can take advantage of. Andrea is 8th of 13 guys, excuse me, to get laps in. Couple things to mention in qualifying here and in the race at the circuit. De Chiller's the only champion to win this circuit. We've had races won here from 1st, 3rd, and even the back row. Jacob Eoin, his only RPL race and win, I believe, if I'm correct. Maybe his only RPL win. I don't think it was his only race. Came from starting P19 in this race back in Season 5. That was a wet event, or sorry, a mixed conditions event. Dry for a little bit, wet for a little bit too. Blonde 4th, Minico will go on board with. But De Chiller, the only champion to win here. Ferrari, Red Bull, and Mercedes having one win apiece. So 3 different teams winning in 3 races here. And then Red Bull has taken 3 of the 3 available pole positions at the circuit. We'll have to find out if they can replicate that tonight. Their 3 pole positions come with 3 drivers that have interesting backgrounds in RPL. Egg, obviously returning recently. He got pole position here in Season 5. Flynn did in Season 6. That was his dominant season until Japan struck when he lost a run at the championship. And Cryptic, who got pole position in Season 8 running of this race the last time we were here. Minico, we're on board with now.
Yeah, as Minico currently working his way through the last couple of corners. He had to do another run because he invalidated his last part lap. Just flat out through that final corner as he roars his way up the incline to the line, and he is 3rd fastest for his debut in the McLaren. Minico really showing his stride so far, and I mean really recently Minico has been showing some real shine in Tier 1, whether being in Mercedes and also earlier on in the season in Aston. Now he is in McLaren debuting, and 3rd place at the moment in Q1. Not bad for Minico at all.
We're going to go on board with HSR Gecko. This will be our first full hot lap we watch. He's going to drain that battery down the main straight, and as he goes into turn 1, Skither joins the session. Now, turn 1 can be very tricky on these inside curbs into turn 2 and 3. You don't want to use a lot of them. You want to use a little bit of it, but you don't want to use a lot, because if you use a lot, you get to that yellow curbing, which I nicknamed a while ago of a stopper. Why would I call it a Verstopper? Because it stopped Verstappen from ending up getting a podium about 8 years ago in Texas. And Gecko, coming through the first sector, purple through there. Turn 5 can be tricky. A little bit different from the MotoGP line they run here. And turn 8, Samsung corner. If you get spun around backwards here, you easily can be disqualified. I've seen it cost a driver a championship before. at this circuit. Now we come through turn 9, 10, which can be very sweeping for a driver. Lots of lines can be taken. Lots of overtakes can happen in this section. And not only can the overtakes happen, Titan, but the track limit penalties in that section is very, very vital and can win or lose you the race. But now Gecko is coming through the final few corners. He might have a good chance here to top the board.
Yeah, very, very strong for Gecko here as he works his way out of the lap corner, comes across the line, and he is second fastest, just a tenth and a half behind Cookie at the moment. But Red Bull really showing their stride right now. They're 1-2 at this present moment. And when you were mentioning about with track limits in regards to warnings and penalties, pretty much the entirety of this of Sector 1 corners, that's where you will find track limit warnings and penalties. Another area, as you mentioned, turns 10 and 11. That's another area that you have to be careful of, because you may either go just a bit too wide or just a bit too early. You'll get warnings and penalties there. But another corner that can also catch you off guard, even though it's rare, is the final corner. The final corner can also catch you off as well.
Very true, especially if you turn the overtake button on too early, and especially in the wet, it can be tricky for a driver. However, the only rain we'll see in tonight's event will come in Q3, supposedly. Rain in 30 minutes, the chiller said about 5 minutes ago. So end of Q2 into Q3, we could be seeing some rain spice up things. Eggles coming out across the line, scored a point in Singapore after the stewards report came out, and he will be just shy of the top 10 this time in Q1. Cryptic also improved just moments ago to go P10. Very nice effort from Cryptic. We've only seen him twice this season, so fair play. And George almost had a collision coming out of the pit lane with a Mercedes. That is Cam.
Yeah, if George didn't get out of the way in time against Cam, he could find himself in even deeper trouble than he already is. But yeah, Cam currently still running around. I think he's back out running for another lap. Whoa, gets a little loose out of turn 8, but keeps it together. Now going through 9 and invalidates out of 9. Gets a little too close on that grass.
Yeah, that's not usually where you invalidate at that corner. You usually invalidate, I would say, on the right side more so than the left side when trying to give room battling other drivers. We've got FRC Knights about to start a lap. He took fastest lap last week in Singapore. He became the first driver outside of the US region to take fastest lap this season. I can't believe that's a stat that we were talking about last week in the event at Singapore. But he stole fastest lap in the changing conditions at the end. And now coming through turn 3 and turn 4. Uphill, downhill, all sorts of sections here around Portimao that can catch you out or can be tricky. I remember Lando Norris was talking about, was it either Mugello or Portimao before, up and down, side to side like a roller coaster. Well, that's what it feels like around the circuit, and he's going to come through Samsung corner now at turn 8 right here, which can also be tricky on track limits on this left side, trying to maximize everything he can. He was up in the first sector, and right now he's safe into Q2, but he has to try to improve if others below him do improve. You've got Jordan, Vapor JS, and George Alp Williams in that bottom 3, and now FRC Knights is 2/10 up on the time, and he's coming into the last sector now, where it can also be make or break for you. This traction section right here he's going through right now, getting back on the power, can be a bit tricky for a driver, but he has done it perfectly. And now this final corner he's coming through now, you got to hug the inside curb and go all the way right across the line. If you want to find more time, he's going to stick it left and across the line. P9 for FRC Knights. He's had some decent races this season, but not all the results have came together.
Yeah, Knights has shown some decently strong pace, but unfortunately, in regards to the racing, mishaps and unfortunates have happened to him in the past. Yeah, I think did something happen to Mintoki?
No, it was George. He invalidated there, and he's going back to the pit lane. It's unfortunate. He's a part of that bottom 4 now. It is because Skither has joined us.
Speaking of hugging it close to the bottom, Mintoki, a driver finding her feet in tier 2, is currently right on the cusp of being knocked out in Q1. And yes, unless it was already brought up in tier two, Mintoki it is another one of our RPL female drivers. So Valkyrie is now not alone, to say the
That's very
least.
true. Very true. And you know what? She was the last female to make a start in Tier 1. That came at Miami last season. And that was in the wet conditions come the race. Mintoki also has some experience around here at Portimao and the Williams. She raced here in the Season 11 Tier 2 running of this race. Just finished outside the points. And this is actually, I believe, if I'm correct, her first race without ABS to help her. So we'll see how she handles this. Oh, a little wide. And was off her time, but
Yikes.
invalidated. J&T invalidated too. So these invalidations are being really tricky for drivers, Titan. Vapor JS is now coming through turn 1 now. Let's go on board with him. His second start in RPL. He's invalidated. No!
He's still got time. He's got a minute 48 left to go. So even if he plays it safe and eases off on the battery, he'll make it to the line with just under 20 seconds to go. He should be in good shape.
Well,
But
Skither.
Toki, unfortunately, she's gonna have to hope and pray that everyone below her either invalidates or doesn't get a time faster than her, because she unfortunately does not have enough time to come out and try again. And Jordan is one of them.
Oh my god.
And
All
I
the
don't know if
invalidations of
Jordan's gonna make it
watching
in time.
come at turn 1. He might just barely make it, Jordan. Skither as well as another one who is also in that bottom 4. And we'll have one and done to do here. This is going to be one lap, and that's it for him to get to the flag and make a lap happen. We'll watch him. We'll watch his lap and see what he does. Everybody 13th on down really is the ones at risk. Andrea, Eoin, still drivers, not to retire from the session yet, but in the pit lane, watching things happen. Here's Skither now. Turn 1. This is tricky for invalidations. You've got to hit your marks here. I think he's just going to try to put a decent lap in, Titan, to just make sure this is valid and get through into the top 15, even if it's not a top 5 lap like his teammate has. You're supplied. Now, 22-0. That's really good. Take it away,
Yeah,
Titan.
very strong indeed. Very strong indeed. Looks like as you said, Jordan is going to make it, as I see it on the track map here.
Barely.
As Skither going through the Samsung corner now, going up the hill, now down the hill. As like you said, roller coaster it is here. Now into the Portimao corners, 10 and 11. Can he keep it within the track limits? Yes, he can. He's the well, I'm not sure if the game is saying it's true, or it might be lying, but they're currently looking at possibly maybe the fastest. He is under the gun, trying to get the best lap that he can. It is Q1 though. He has to keep an eye on those tires as he's working his way through. But here he comes down towards the line to come across and finish his lap, and it is
Safe.
12th fastest. But
Mintoki
it
is out.
knocks Mintoki out.
Vapor JS is trying to get through. Vapor JS is up on the time, but only good enough for 17th, just barely ahead of RPL Jordan. That's Eggles putting himself in the top 10. How about that?
Wow.
George Up Williams, yesterday was not his day. Today's not his day either. Last of everybody on the track. RPL Jordan is a 10th down in the second sector, but still can find time here to at least go ahead of Mintoki or Vapor JS. Like I said, this last sector, if you can find a little bit of time, you can get ahead of some of your competitors. He's hugging the inside. Out of battery right now is Jordan, and he's going to try to dip to the right side. And can he find one place? No, he can't. That's it from qualifying in Q1. Jordan will be joined by Mintoki and both AlphaTauris out of qualifying. It's a Red Bull 1-2.
And take a look at this. You're gonna love this. First to 15th, all separated by not even a second.
Three different nationalities technically in the bottom 4. Technically 4 if you want to exclude the Welshman from the British. But Mintoki says it's technically her home race. Last I spoke to her about Portugal, out of Q1. Vapor JS out as well in his second start. He'll have to watch his 2 Academy cars who were 1-2, try to duel it out. Jordan and George Alp Williams as well joined him relegated in that bottom 4. It's a Red Bull 1-2 in Portimao qualifying session 1, but will it stay that way come Q2 and Q3? We'll have to find out. Give us your predictions in chat, folks. Not only do I want you to give us your predictions, but let us know what you think of the upcoming races here in Tier 1. We've got Japan next week. We've got Vegas after that, China, and then we'll finish off the season in Texas, Mexico, and Brazil. And it is starting to get cloudier as we expected, by the way, Titan, because I did mention it was going to rain in qualifying at some point, as the chiller said. It should be 30 minutes in, and this is about going to be close to 30 minutes in, so you want to get a lap in before it starts raining. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. I'm probably going to have some time to think on who is going to be knocked out for Q2, but honestly, and I'm probably going to go with one of my boldest and wildest predictions known to man. I am seeing that Q1 time that he did. I'm actually thinking possibly. You know what? I'm actually going to say it. Like I said, I'm going extremely bold here. I think Egg is going to put that Williams into Q3.
I mean, I did speak to him before this event. He did say it is a possibility to score points at Portimao. Just slight possibility, but with this competition being as close as it was, like you said, less than a second there, this is going to be very tough. Cryptic, very big surprise in this session, outperforming that Alpine, I would say. Egg outperforming the Williams. Knights, no surprise there. JNT as well, who had a really, really good pole lap yesterday as we uploaded on the YouTube. He is up there as well in Q2. Eoin, with that weird name now, is in this session. No surprise there. Last week's winner. The Chiller, the Season 8 winner as well, in and fast in that top 3. Jack Miles will be the first one we watch here. Brand new team for him, Aston Martin. He's trying to score a podium with a 9th different team here in RPL F1. And you spoke about those qualifying laps, Titan. 16.4 was, I think, the fastest time. 16.3. Well, the pole time. Yeah, the pole time in FE, even though it was a wet race, was a 16.0. The Season 11 Tier 2 pole lap from Gecko was a 15.6. We'll watch later on if we can replicate anything similar to that. Turn 3 and Turn 4 for Jack. You're going to be toward that inside curbs right there and go right back to the outside curbs. Or turn number 5 here with the DRS applied. 21.8. This is 2/10 better than what Skither was able to do there on his one and done lap. And now Turn 5 can be tricky for those track limits on the outside when battling side by side and giving room here. And same here for the left side on those curbs. You don't want to go out too wide, and traction can be very tricky at Turn 8 here, but Jack does it perfect. Jack is going through now Turn 9, Turn 10 here soon, and it will be the ending bit of Sector 2, and he's going to use the normal casual line that you can use, but he maximizes his time there coming out of what I believe was turn number 11, and now as he goes into 13 here, late braking, we can see a lot of moves happen in this section, but it will cost you time if it happens in the race.
Yeah, absolutely. As Jack currently going through the final corner to set the benchmark for Q2. That benchmark is a 16.6 for him. Who's up next? Let's see. We got Cryptic 17.0. We got TB 16.6. Not for him. 2 milliseconds separating that. Egg currently 4th fastest. Here comes Eoin 16.8. The Chiller responds with a faster time for Q1 16.2.
So the Chiller is really trying to take those critics to the drain. We've also got the other Mercedes, a Cam, who's also going to be right ahead of TB. So Cam doing exactly what Minico is doing and being right near the teammate. The other Ferrari comes across. That's Skither, only 5th fastest, but that top 5 is really close. And Cookie just says, that top 5 can be completely different now. I'll go fastest. And his teammate Gecko will also start a lap, I believe, after invalidating one. Watch him while others cross the line. Minico also on an out lap, by the way, now starting one. Sorry, go ahead.
It's all good. Cookie actually had a bit of help from Blonde, by the way, because I saw on the track map, Cookie was all over the back end of Blonde on the final corner. That's how Cookie managed to get a decent amount of string into his lap. I was wondering on one thing on on one person's lap that he was going through. Egg, I wonder if he had a little mishap in the braking of turn one because his left rear wheel inadvertently clipped and tore down the 50-meter brake board.
Oh, yikes. That's never a good sight. Gecko's doing a 51-2 in the second sector. And now we're going to see what this is going to look like in the third and last sector. Everybody out on track or getting a lap in before it starts raining. It's supposed to rain later on at the end of Q2 into Q3, which should set us up for an interesting battle for pole position. Gecko is going to cross the line to make it a Red Bull 1-2 once again. Minico has not seen any sort of dip in pace at all, switching to the Alpine Academy for McLaren, but he's only 8 thousandths off Blonde, who was loaned to the Alpine Academy for tonight and got a podium last week in that McLaren. So Minico, in this change from Mercedes to McLaren, has really not lost any pace at all, and in fact has kind of dragged himself a little closer to the front of the field. As for Cam, he's still right there with his teammate TB. That's to be expected. And Jack Miles as well, just 1,000th off TB, the Academy teammate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did take a quick peek at the Twitch chat, and well, Invade, I have a decent theory on what those strange things are. If I had to take a wild guess, and probably Owen will confirm it, his EA on the PC, that is probably the reason it's just showing those freaking rectangle thingies. Those are emojis. They're emojis. That's what they are. They're supposed to be emojis, but they aren't registering it onto the thing, so that's why you're seeing those rectangles. So that's what it is. They're emojis.
Do you think it's not registering it because Owen wanted to be inappropriate? I mean, it's Owen. You don't know.
I mean, what could be worse? That he has he has like an eggplant and a peach right next to each other?
I don't know. Maybe.
Or maybe two peaches and an eggplant in between.
It's getting a little fruity in here. Scyther's improving. Skither, Scyther, whatever. I don't know. You know, no, I did speak to him a while ago. I said, is it Scyther or Skither? It's Skither, but I always kept calling him Scyther after that, so I want to get in the habit of calling him Skither from now on. I want to get in the habit of it, because everyone else calls him Skither, and everyone else who knows him calls him Skither. Well, everyone else who knows him knows he's going to improve in this lap, and he is still doing so, and he goes fourth fastest, just behind teammate DeChiller. So I want to actually give a fair credit to DeChiller here, actually taking the fight to Red Bull here, or at least the second Red Bull of Gecko, because he's actually, though I know Skither did not have the most amount of practice here compared to DeChiller, but the fact is, DeChiller's a 10th ahead of his teammate right now here in Q2. That's fair play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Chiller has been giving a lot of casted doubt in regards to his performances when racing, whenever he's in a top car. I think honestly, potentially, maybe the pressure just makes him crack, and it really results in inconsistent results. Causes inconsistent results. But then when he goes to a midfield card, midfield car, not card. He actually shows some signs of brilliance, and then on the rare chance, what the heck happened?
Cookie hopped over the curb right there at turn one. I knew that was going to happen to somebody at some point, and well, he's not backed off.
Well, if it's that, if we know it's the inner, what the hell?
I saw him dart right for a second. I thought
he darted right for a second and knocked over the board.
Oh, well, he didn't invalidate from it either. Huh.
No, he didn't. I just got that clear as day.
I mean, I just missed it. I switched off of him, trying to get to Cam, who's improving. I've not had you cover a lap yet, Titan, properly. How about I have you cover this? Cam is improving by about a 10th.
Yeah, absolutely. As Cam currently going through turn 7 and 8 now into Samsung, getting back over up onto the throttle, through the gears, down the hill he comes, through turn 9, which is David Jones, I think is what it's called. Something Jones, whatever. Anyway, through 9 and 10, Portimao corners, keeping it easy into the braking. Now for 13. This track does go by pretty dang quick. It's hard to catch with some of the corner names. Now through 14, easy on the throttle pressure, getting it up through the gears. Now flat out in the final corner, down the hill he comes. Now through a little uphill to cross the line. Cam goes improving to fourth fastest, splitting the Ferrari pair.
Owen crosses the line to improve. He'll go ahead of teammate Jack, and he'll also go ahead of Academy teammate Fake TB. Much needed lap right there. Andrea is trembling in the last few corners. Invalidated lap time prior. I think about to start another one here, because as you can see, the cloud cover Titan a lot more cloudier and just minutes away from rain.
Yeah, absolutely. And taking a look at the scoreboard here, at the scoreboards here, TB sitting in ninth. He's gonna have to hope and pray that no one else can do better than he can, because, well, we know with one driver, Jack, he could improve and overtake, but then he has to hope to not get booted down to the bottom five. And if that happens, talk about a big upset there. Andrea, unfortunately, Sector 1. Must have made a mistake somewhere. He's over a 10th down in Sector 1.
Yeah, that mistake has caused me to switch to Knights, who is improving by 4/10, and right now would get himself up to 11th, but that would not be enough to get himself into Q3 right here. You got Jack on the bubble. You got below him, currently being relegated, Cryptic, Eggles, teammate of Cryptic, Andrea, and Knights and J&T. But now, Knights is getting a little bit of a tow here from a Mercedes in front of him, and that Mercedes is actually helping him out. That's Cam helping out Knights, and Knights almost knocked Jack out with that tow. He's 11th, but an impressive 11th at that. J&T's 12th, and right there with his Academy teammate.
Yeah, absolutely. And Andrea now coming across the line. He goes 12th fastest now. I mean, these guys are they're a little bit behind at the moment, but any possibility can be had to try to pull off a huge upset here. As Jack does go 9th fastest, that puts TV at risk. Literally, the separation between 10th and 11th right now, 79 milliseconds separates the from getting yourself into Q3 to being in the relegation.
Very smart from Jack to go again and get another lap in. I think that was much needed. Cryptic is out of qualifying. He is in the bottom 5 and retires from the session, so he will not be able to defend his pole position from the last time we ran here in Season 8. Eggles, not improving in Sector 1, not improving in Sector 2, but he will head to the pit lane, and I think this might be it from him. I think these guys are realizing the rain is going to come soon here, and it's any minute, even though there's 2 minutes left in the session, and their chances of improving are slim to none. So we'll find out if anybody else does have anything to say about their current laps. Cam coming back to the pit lane, Skither in the pit lane right now, but not retired. Jack Miles on an in lap. Knights is either recharging and going again, or on an in lap. Knights is going to the pit lane. Andrea is invalidated, and I think he might head to the pit lane too. Yeah, he's definitely going to be in the pit lane. So what? Less than 2 minutes left, right?
Yeah, and I mean, literally, it's only about a minute and a half to come back out to basically get around and come back out to the track. So if he is very, very quick enough, Egg should be able to come back out and try to get a new lap in.
Yeah, but I think Egg and Knights are going to be the only one who could do that realistically. No, Knights is back into the pit lane and being put in his garage area.
Egg is coming back out.
Egg is coming back out, though, and Egg might barely have enough time here. He's got to get going, and he cannot waste any time. He has to... Oh, he almost crossed the white line there. He has to end up pushing the limits on track here to get into a lap that is worth getting in Q3. We saw Williams have all the attention at the end of Q1 last week, but it was a driver making his debut and then crashing out, and then leaving the league right after, and not racing in Singapore. This week, it's Egg, who was teammates with that guy last week, Aspec. Egg now has a pole position here. So the guys who have pole positions at the circuit, Egg and Cryptic, two of the three, I should say, in that bottom 5. Interesting. I think if Egg is going to improve here, Titan, He'll get ahead of Cryptic, but I don't think he'll get ahead of J&T.
Well, anything is likely, but the question is, can he make it in time? He's got 23 seconds to go. I think he's going to make it with about 5 seconds remaining.
He'll make it. He'll make it, but no one else will.
He's going to have to really put the fire in the gas. Here we go.
Yes, he will.
Make it in time. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Oh, 3 seconds. He makes it.
He has timed that perfect. Knights retires. Skither Jack, checkered flag. Egg through turn 1 now. On the inside curb, toward the outside curb. Just barely within track limits. Now for turn 3, heavy braking right here. You might want to rear lock it a little bit. I think he did a little bit. Now hugging toward the inside of turn 4. Not enough though. He almost went invalid right there because of how wide he went, and he's down on the time. Turn 5 right here. Tricky for a driver. Going to the inside curb, then to the outside curb. Sweeping left to right. Now turn 6 here. And now 7 and 8. 7 look beautiful. 8's got to look better. He has to find time if he wants to get by Cryptic here and start in the first 7 rows. Right now, he's only starting in row 8 and in 15th spot. Turn 10 here. Turn 11 about. Up by about a 10th, so I was right. Maybe he can get ahead of Cryptic. He has a chance to do just that, but this last sector has to be hit to perfection.
Yeah, he's gonna have to pull something really powerful here in this final sector. Can he actually pull? I wonder if he can maybe pull the greatest upset ever and maybe knock TB off. Anything is possible. Here he comes out of the final corner, comes across the line, and no, 14th.
Yeah, I think it was going to be out of the range to beat TB there, but no doubt that he could get another place. He got Cryptic. Egg and Cryptic, both previous pole sitters of the circuit, will be relegated out of that bottom 5, and Egg could have almost got J&T right there if he had another 10th. I think I just saw Rain start to hit the circuit right there for just a second. Either way, here is Q2, done and dusted, out of Q2. Andrea, Cryptic, both Alpines. Cryptic on loan. Knights and J&T, both Ferrari Academy drivers out, and Eggles for Williams is out of Q2. So into Q3, we've got Cookie leading Gecko into Chiller. Cam and TB, both teammates in. We've got 5 different constructors in this session. We got both McLarens, we got both Astons, both Ferraris, both Mercedes, and both Red Bulls all going for pole position here. So no surprises if any of these teams take pole position. All these teams have taken pole position this game cycle, and it is raining to no surprise. Yep. So I think right here is going to be maybe a one and done lap unless the conditions get better. You want to get out and go for it and get the lap in immediately.
This is where things get really interesting now. Before everyone starts piling out, one thing that has to be noted, the top 10 when Q2 ended, 1st through 10th, separated by 0.6 of a second, and the last place car just a smidge below 1.1 seconds below the pole sitter behind pole. So literally everyone in that Q2 group basically close to around a second apart. That is very, very close and very, very thrilling.
You're going to want to check what I sent you in Discord here in about 10 seconds, Titan, because the conditions seem to not be improving throughout the later stages of this session, meaning wets are getting ever so closer to these intermediate tires. Cookie going to have the advantage being the first driver out on track. Looking for pole position number 15 of the season is Cookie. Red Bull could also be taking all-time pole position number 90. So, get your predictions in chat, folks. We don't have much time to give any predictions, so we're going to leave it to you guys here in the chat tonight. Obviously, we won't have a pole time similar to FE Tier 2 at all, but we do have some wet running here in Portimao. Just like Season 8, where there was some upsets, Titan. But Cookie, who could win the championship today, is now on it for pole position. He was second here in Season 8. Here he goes with his lap, starting now.
Yeah, so here we go as Cookie currently going through turns 1, 2, and 3. Nice and easy here on these interconditions. Nice and slow, easy on the braking. Don't lock up in 3. Can easily outdo you there as he gets a little slippery out going up the uphill left of turn 4. Down and away now into the heavy braking of turn 5 as he works his magic backed up to the gears, easing on the throttle application, going through 6, now through 7 and 8 for Samsung, easing on the throttle, easy on the braking. Don't want to go too high on that throttle output going up the hill, back down the hill, firing away down through 9. Now to the Portimao corners, turns 10 and 11. Keeping it easy, try to keep it within track limits. He does so through turn 12 now, hugging close to that curb. Now into the next braking zone of 13. Little slip out of the exit. Slip again in the braking zone of 14. But somehow keeps it maintained. And another slip again on the exit. But keeping it together. Still flat out through the final corner. Let's see what he's got for his benchmark as he comes across the line. And that benchmark is a 23.2.
Jack Miles follows it up next. It'll be second place for the time being. Next is the Ferraris. It is De Chiller first, then Skither further back. Gecko, front row. Skither and Minico and Blonde. The next ones to come across the line. 5th, 6th for the McLarens. Skither, slowest of anybody thus far. We've also got Eoin invalidated. Cam invalidated. TB invalidated. So they will have to have another go at this. But the 7 who got their laps in, though, may be the best ones.
Anything is possible. We did mention that in one of the qualifying sessions prior, where they thought that this lap could be the one and done, and then we got proven wrong with a couple of drivers that managed to improve and get even faster in even the more wilder conditions as Eoin invalidates again, this time out of turn 5.
TB and Cam still stay alive on track limits. TB faster than Cam, even though TB went through the sector split last of him and his teammate. So Cam we're on board with now, who got spun out on the main straight in the FE running of this race when it was wet. We'll find out if he can redeem himself this time in the Tier 1 running. 57.2 from Cam. A lot slower than the dry conditions, no doubt about it. This section can be very slippery in the wet. And this section right here, I've seen decide 2 races. One in the league owned by myself in April before that was ran about 2 years ago. That decided the win. That was a big slide. And one that decided De Chiller and TB's victory here in Portimao. But now Cam across the line. Where is this going to place him? 8th of 8. TB invalidated. That's going to be it from him. If he is able to get out again, he can get a lap in. But he'll probably be battling for 8th or lower.
Yeah, TB got invalidated somewhere out of the final corner, and unfortunately, because of that invalidation that he had, not only did he lose the lap that he was on, but he's going to lose the very next lap too, and that is really going to hurt him. So Eoin and TB, the only 2 drivers yet to set a lap, and Cam, because of that first invalidation, he is the slowest out of the group.
Jack Miles, a really good effort to put that Aston Martin on his Aston Martin F123 debut into P3. Not only is Jack being P3 the impressive thing about this session as well, but Meriton mentioned to me how the best 5 cars are all in Q3. It shows how competitive RPL has become. Fair point.
Absolutely.
And I don't know what happened to Cam on his lap, Titan, but he's missing a front wing.
Hey, yeah, just noticed that too. He must have dumped it off somewhere and crashed.
Yeah.
Looks like everyone else is heading back into the pits now.
The only guy back out is Jack.
And Eoin too.
The track is not as good. Well, let's see what happens here for Jack Miles coming back out on track here. Him and his teammate Eoin are the only two out on track currently. Very strange to see him and Eoin farther apart here, I must say. Eoin won last week, and Eoin has had some bad races though, Titan. It's not like Eoin has had it all be perfect. Obviously, he has had the 3 podiums this season in Tier 1. But he also had as well a race in Hungary where he was really close to Wavy outside the points. And Aston were not really good around there. But hopefully, whatever happens here with him and Jack, him and his teammate can be close. Just like TB and Cam have been up to Q3.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is going to be quite interesting to see. I'm wondering what Jack is up to when he is currently off and around in his next lap. Well, we know Eoin, he has to go to try to get a lap on the board. Minico has called it on his end. He thinks the track is not improving at all. There's no point in going out. See what Jack has as he comes across sector 1. Nearly 2/10 down in sector 1.
If Skither ends up finishing 7th, if this were the race, that would be enough to stay alive for the championship, considering Cookie is out in front and leading qualifying 23-2. Gecko, who also is second, was in the Red Bull when Cookie missed Zandvoort a few weeks ago and had a race like Cookie would have up until the safety car came out. Jack Miles, though, is 4/10 down. He's not improving here. Is Eoin improving? We'll find out.
Well, he's invalidated, so.
Oh, man. Well, I've been part of a few jinxes, I feel, so far this event. You had the one with Vapor.js in Q1, Jordan as well, and then Eoin. Jack Miles is back into the pit lane, and he's going to give us a little drift there for just a second. I'm going to go AFK quickly for a second, but I just want to remind everybody that Tier 2, yesterday it was JTK who won over JNT and Redfire Tiger back on the podium. And for Tier 2 next week, we're in Canada. F1 next week, we're in Japan. While I watch Skither Titan, if you have anything else to tell the stream about, let's do it now. I'm going to be right back.
All right. Speaking about when he was talking about with Tier 2, like I said earlier in the stream, there was quite a lot of chaos I've seen in regards to Tier 2 yesterday at Coda. At the moment, currently, unless there's more in there in the time that I have last checked, there's 25 clips submitted for the stewards to review for Tier 2. That is the second all-time for most clips submitted in an event. The record was done in F2 Japan in Season 10, where 26 was submitted. I'm wondering if the chance of that record being broken at some point, who knows? I know the stream's currently on Scyther. I'm on the guy ahead of him, that being Eoin. Can he finally get a lap in that he is okay on? I do wonder that in the slightest, but who knows? As Scyther and Eoin currently going through the last couple of corners together. As Eoin, like I said last week, like Ryan mentioned, the last week's winner, and Eoin is actually faster than Cam. 25-0 for him, and Scyther was only a 10th down at the end of his lap. And TB goes ahead of his teammate, and unfortunately, the Mercedes pair at the bottom of the pack. Let's take a look, see who else is running around on a lap. Looks like Cam is on his lap on my screen. He's 3/10 up in the second sector. I could have him overtake Eoin to put him back in 8th place. See what he's got as he comes out of the final couple of corners. Stay within the track limits. And on the final corner he comes. There's an Aston going slow. That's Eoin. And Cook and Cam at 24-7, and that is the end of Wow, we're at the end of qualifying already. Scyther's showing improvements. 2 tenths
Whoa,
up
so maybe
in
the
sector
track
2.
got worse and then got better. Here we go. Skither across the line now. On the weekend, he still can stay alive for the championship. He goes 6 fastest ahead of Blonde. Minico, the Chiller, Jack all retired from the session, maybe believing that it's not improving. Gecko up by 39 thousandths. Cookie down in Sector 1.
TB's invalidated. Owen's invalidated.
TB, yep.
Blonde
Yeah, you
invalidated too.
can't validate in these conditions. I think it's just down to Gecko. Gecko, 39 thousandths up. Back to the pit lane. Cookie, down by 7 tenths. Sliding now off the circuit and gonna pirouette it to go to pole position. Cookie steals it again and steals the spotlight in Portimao for the 2nd time in a row here. This circuit's played a lot of nice things to him, getting him a front row the last time here in an Alfa Romeo, this time in a Red Bull. He's got a 23-2 and on pole position for the 15th time this season. Red Bull take their 90th Tier 1 pole at the success of Cookie, and Gecko makes it a front row lockout.
This is gonna be an interesting. This is gonna be interesting to say the least, as we're all set and done with queue number 3. Well, let's take a look at this pack here. So everybody, once the screen changes, there we go.
Cookie, Gecko, Jack. There we go. Yep. I just call it the end of it.
6-10 separation from first and second.
Yeah. Red Bull front row lockout. Jack is 3rd in his debut for Aston this game. The Chiller is 4th. Minico rounds out the top 5 as well. Not bad for Minico to be up there for McLaren in his technically McLaren debut. Skither and Blonde as well. 2 Ferraris, 2 McLarens. Same type of order. Cam, TB, disappointments here from this session for sure, invalidating too much. Costed them their 8th and 10th. Eoin, 9th. 6 places away from teammate Jack. I'm not totally sure on the pit stop loss or ERS gain back here in the pit lane. I don't have that information for Portimao. It's one of only 3 circuits I don't have it for, but I can tell you right now, likely a medium hard, soft hard tonight for this event. Could be seeing a soft medium, but I doubt it.
I'll try to find it. I'll try to find it if necessary, but it'll probably be a bit on the old side, honestly.
However, I want to mention the weather for the race. It is completely dry, but don't expect it to rain. It's supposed to get cloudy at the end of the race. Looks like it's a 1 stop here from the projections that we're seeing right now from the streams I'm watching. Minico on the 1 stop, J&T on the 1 stop, easy 1 stop around the circuit. I think we used to have a chance here for a 2 stop a couple games ago, whether it be 2021 or 2022, but championship can be won today. We'll see if that happens as well. The championship standings, let's go over that very quickly, folks, with 20 seconds to spare. Cookie has a 134-point lead over Skither. Red Bull have a 235-point lead over McLaren. Cookie probably has more of a chance than Red Bull does as a constructor, but we got 5 seconds to spare. Time to return to Portimao with lights out in a moment.
Even though it's from 3 years ago, apparently, according to the data, lap loss 25 seconds. And formation lap is on?
Yes, I guess Luke had a last-minute change. I guess. I'm surprised about that, actually. I am surprised because Luke was very much in denial of wanting formation lap back on, but it worked yesterday in Tier 2, so we're here for formation lap. We'll go over a couple of things that we don't usually go over then. Why not? We have previous Portimao races to look at that we spoke about before in qualifying, where the races have been won here from 1st, 3rd, and 19th on the grid. Also, something to mention as well is that the constructor standings we mentioned briefly, while Mercedes and Ferrari, they still have a chance to take over 2nd place if that does get wrapped up. Mercedes are 25 points back from McLaren. Ferrari are 14 points back from Mercedes. And Ferrari have to beat Red Bull in order to stay alive. Ferrari need to beat Red Bull likely with with both cars, because Red Bull have had a streak of scoring in 44 consecutive races. Mercedes and McLaren, Red Bull need to beat them. TB needs to beat Cookie. TB needs to beat Cookie by 3 or more points. Skither and TB cannot tie with Cookie, just like McLaren, Mercedes, and Ferrari, they cannot tie with Red Bull. That's how dominant they've been as a driver pairing and a team. And as for our strategies for tonight's event, a lot of guys opting to go on soft tires. We see 6 of the guys in this event on soft tires, most of the field being made up of mediums. Skither, Cam, Vapor.js, they're on hards. You see the strategy from Cookie's point of view: soft to medium, soft to hard. Like I said, it's those 3 strategies: soft, medium, hard, medium, hard, or the revert strategy of that being the ones that we're looking at tonight. And remember, with formation lap back on Titan, you got to get in your grid slot just perfectly.
Absolutely. It's been, for a lot of these guys, it's, heck, even for RPL sense, it's been a long time since we've had a formation lap in this league. But I mean, it's gonna be good to see them back as everyone starts to file into place. George being the last one to line up, and once he's lined up, we will be ready to go to kick it off.
It has been 2 seasons since we last raced here in Portimao. The 5 lights come on to start Portugal. And the lights are out, and away we go. Gecko alongside Cookie on the run to turn 1. But behind that, Jack Miles gets the upper edge on Gecko. And going to be alongside with the Chiller. Jack to second place. Gecko battling side by side. Lots of squawking around in the midfield. Lots of guys weaving and bobbing. But the Chiller will try to take 30. Can't do so. Side by side now with Eoin and Skither for 6th. While Cookie leads over Jack Miles, and crash! That's a crash! That's TB off! Cam has been collected. I think there was also Knights getting a slight piece of that. J&T as well. Also stopped on the track. The virtual safety car has been deployed from their debacle.
What a chaotic mess there for both Mercedes. They're basically firing under the gun in regards to the constructors fight, and this is not what they wanted. Also at the start, Gecko had a poor getaway on the lights out. That allowed Jack to get him before turn 1, and the Chiller nearly got him as well, but Gecko fought him off and maintained that 3rd place. But a virtual safety car for that mess. I do wonder what happened there.
A brilliant start from George, up 6 places. A brilliant start from RPL Jordan, up 4. Vapor, Cryptic, Egg, Andrea, Knights, Eoin, they all gained spots too. The VSC came to an abrupt end, and it's also caught Gecko out. Gecko, who had a awful start on those mediums, and nearly a collision on the straight. The Chiller trying to get through, couldn't get through, and they're single file all the way to Eoin. But everybody right there just trying to have a go on the car in front of them. And now Eoin, Skither, Minico, nearly a 3-car collision with that accordion effect. Eoin gonna hang it around the outside of Skither. He goes off track, comes back on side by side, then backs off to give him the place back. But Skither having to defend here at the hairpin. Turn 5, having the inside, gonna squeeze Eoin there to the curb. Using the battery now, turning on the jets, and Eoin will still be side by side here, hanging it with the curb, and Eoin jumping over the curb. And now it's Samsung corner. Skither excels ahead on those hard tires. They did not have the best getaway, but he is able to keep the place, while RPL Jordan gets a place on George.
Yeah, Eoin really putting on a strong powerhouse charge. I'm wondering if Scyther didn't give Eoin enough adequate racing room out of turn number 4 there, but right on that main straight, Gecko, bit of a late, possibly dangerous block the Chiller on that main straight. The Chiller didn't want to bumping into Gecko. That threw him off just a little bit, but looks like the Chiller's trying again, possibly looking to see a peak. No, Gecko has it covered off.
And he's about to be out of DRS right there, Gecko, as Jordan also had another swap with George come the main straight. Now, Jack Miles in DRS pursuit of Cookie to challenge here in lap 3. George and Jordan are still not done at it. Try saying that fast, George and Jordan. Another swap for 13th place. George through, Jordan trying to come back at it, and George can't keep him at bay. Jordan down the inside, and he's banging wheels with Jordan. Jordan through on George.
Yeah, Jordan really putting on a bit of a stomper against George here. Ooh, a little bit of a shunt from George. Got into the back of Jordan. And he's all over the back of him again. Here we go. As George making down the inside. Little touch. Oh boy. Little bump and bonk there.
Mentoki will take advantage. Does Mentoki go down the inside? No. Mentoki and George, usually Academy teammates in Tier 2, but George got sacked from the Merc Academy after yesterday's running in Tier 2. So Mentoki was one of those guys who was not happy with George, and now here goes to Chiller, blasting past Gecko to take over 3rd place in this race. Eggles also trying to get Andrea for a point spot. That'll be crucial for Williams in their constructors fight. And Andrea punts the back of him. And now 3-car race into turn number 1. Mentoki slams into Jordan, hopping onto that curb, getting it all wrong there.
Yeah, George overtaking Jordan for the 13th spot. Mentoki tried to follow suit. She caught the curb, went airborne and wilding around, and unfortunately her bouncing over bumped into Jordan. Jordan had to go wide. Even if Jordan tries to report it, I think that could be a racing incident, to be truthfully, maybe.
The last time we ran formation lap in RPL, the Chiller was on podium in Australia back in Season 9, Round 1. Gecko was just shoving the back of him, trying to push him along, and while that was happening, Jack Miles got himself out of DRS, so now the Chiller and Gecko are fighting to catch up to Jack Miles and Cookie. Gecko with DRS down the main straight, chooses the left side, and almost tags him, and almost spins him around, but side by side they still remain. Eoin had a skither, the Chiller down a place as well, so both Ferraris there got past on the main straight, and one of them was with contact. Here's George also defending Jordan still. Wheel to wheel at turn 1. Jordan has to use the runoff, and now George will have the inside preferred line and remains ahead at turn 3.
Yeah, a bit of a wild mess. A little bit of a wild mess. Oh! I had a feeling that was going to happen.
Jordan tagged George, and George into the wall with damage.
I had a feeling that was going to happen.
I was not surprised one bit. With that said, with the VSC, don't forget both Mercedes are still in this race. We've not spoke about them since that incident. TB pitted for hards. J&T also involved in that incident. Pitted for hards too. And Cam pitted for softs. And Andrea, we just missed that. I'm sorry, folks. But a teammate swap right there. I think he just pulled an up and under on Cryptic from the way that looked.
That's what it looked like. That's what it looked like to me on the track map as well. Yeah, that was quite interesting. I think Cryptic tried to overtake Andrea to try to chase down Egg, but Andrea changed his mind and did the up and under and got past. But now Cryptic back ahead onto the main straight, and now he's up in 11th, and now he is within DRS of Egg right now to try to go to get himself into the points. And
Jordan retires in the pit lane. Gecko now going for 2nd place in this race. Dive down the inside. Late lunge through on Jack, but Jack not back done at it. He's going to try a switchback here as they race side by side. Jack Miles has to concede the place, and he was being caught out majorly there from losing DRS. He's lost 2nd place as well in the process. Gecko makes it a Red Bull 1-2.
Yeah, but also bear in mind when Jack was trying to stay with Cookie, he had to burn through almost all of his ERS deployment available. Basically, like 3 laps ago, Jack had about 4% of his battery left going into turn 5, while Cookie had nearly 65% ERS available.
Now, Gecko with Jack Miles. It's a 6'10 gap. He's not able to pull him out of DRS, but he's got a DRS train within the thick of things. The Chiller and Minico there for company. Further on back, Cryptic is behind Egg now for the last points. And these two previous pole sitters at the circuit will duke it out into turn 1. Cryptic, though, gets the upper edge. He's through.
Yeah, but I think before the braking zone, Egg let off the throttle because he knows that he could easily have the DRS coming out of turn 5. He does 4. He has that, but unfortunately, not close enough to warrant an attack. Especially even after Cryptic, his car got very loose out of the exit of turn 4.
So Red Bull right now in this race are scoring maximum points. We're going to see what that does for the constructor's sake in just a moment. But the gap between the two leaders, Cookie and Gecko, 4.3. We'll find out what happens there. One of the other guys that also pitted from contact and damage, George. He's now plumb last of the guys left in this race. We've only lost one. It is RPL Jordan giving up in the pit lane.
While we're doing that, I'm just taking a look at it right now. So at the moment, Cookie and Gecko with their max points, that means Red Bull will be sitting at 579 unofficially. Looks like Ferrari is looking at, I could be incorrect, looking at 18 points. So Ferrari, unfortunately, yeah, Ferrari is going to be knocked out. Ooh, yeah. Gecko in the penalty box.
In the penalty box, that is not good at all. Mercedes would be scoring nothing. And as for McLaren, they'd be scoring, what, 14 points?
14, yeah.
That'd be enough for Red Bull, just barely, over McLaren to clinch the constructors if things stay the way they are. But now, with the penalty applied to Gecko, obviously that calculation is before that, Gecko is costing a chance at Red Bull taking the Constructors' Championship, because now, before that penalty, they would have it clinched up as of right now if the race were to end. But with the penalty applied, they would not have it. So track limits was a big talking point in qualifying, but in the race, it's been a costly thing thus far. It hampers Gecko. Cam is in from the soft tires.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is going to be a big hampering indeed, because had Gecko not gotten the penalty, if the race ended right now and everything stays as it is unofficially, Red Bull would have had the constructors won by a single point at this present time. But with Gecko's penalty, this is now going to have McLaren stick around and stay alive for another week. Yeah, Scythe around Eoin now. This time
a little bit of a dummy.
Scythe had to go a long way around and gets himself back into 6th place. Now this is going to help Scythe out because he is still alive in the Drivers' Championship at the moment. I'd say with the McLaren people right now, Minico and Blonde are going to have to gain at least another position in order to keep themselves firmly safe in the Constructors' hunt.
The Mercedes Cam goes a lap down and will only have a chance here if a safety car comes out, because that will be his only way to unlap himself at this current time and moment. If he stays alive and stays behind these guys where he's at right now, he can still get his lap back, but he's going to have to not pit. With that being said, the next time that he does have the safety car come out. Major difference in the tires here, Josh was telling me about, and Jack as well. So something to take note of when you see these guys go on the different compounds. But all 3 compounds being used fairly equally so far this race. That penalty for Gecko will definitely play a big difference here in the way this race goes. But Jack Miles in his first race for Aston Martin really pulling off a big surprise here, being net P2. Cam speeds in the pit lane, and this is the 2nd retirement of the day.
Yikes. Yeah, Mercedes has completely fallen apart here. And unfortunately, with Cam retired and done, that means it is now official. Mercedes is now eliminated from the constructor standings, from the Constructors' Championship.
Because if Mercedes wanted to beat Red Bull still, they need to score with both cars. And Red Bull are currently scoring with both cars. So based on the current championship scenarios, that is exactly right. TB as well is still in this race. J&T and George behind them, but not a lap down just yet.
Speaking of which, taking a look at the race end of right now. At the moment, Gecko would fall to fifth place at this present moment because Jack is still maintaining within DRS at Gecko, and he's got the Chiller and Minico right behind him. Minico, we haven't talked much about him. He's playing it calm and quiet so far in this event.
He's doing exactly what he needs to. That's as simple as that. It's very easy to say, easier said than done. Jack Miles using some battery there on the main straight to defend his place, and he does that with ease. 1/3 of the way done in Portimao. Just a reminder, folks, if you want to tune into RPL action here, RPL Formula 1 is our Twitch name to follow if you're watching from the YouTube. And if you're watching from the Twitch, follow us on the YouTube with the same exact name. It should be fun to see how many of you go and do that after tonight's event. Yesterday in Tier 2, we had a record amount of viewership in RPL on F123 with 26 max viewers, being +6 of the previous record on the F123 game cycle, and 16 average viewers during the Tier 2 event. So it should be fun to see how many of you guys are watching next week in Tier 2 in Canada at the halfway point of the Tier 2 season during a miraculous championship fight. Either way, 11 laps about to be done of this event. Cryptic holding on for the last point for Alpine. Knights in the points for Haas. Blonde on loan as well up there too. Fair play to them. Blonde also having a lot of battery to conserve. Same with Skither. Eoin having barely nothing. And with that being said, no championship can be won right now from Cookie, but he needs to extend the gap by 4 more points if he wants to do it today. Yellow flags, J&T's around. George also with a penalty.
Yeah, George in the penalty box, and he gets overtaken by G&T. Meanwhile, Gecko, he's going to have to be very careful because I just checked the race director. Gecko is 1 warning away from a 3-second penalty, and that's not what you want to have happen.
Exactly.
And taking a look at the entire top 10, out of this top 10, other than Gecko, that has at least a track limit warning on them, there's only 2, the Chiller and Cryptic. Everyone else doesn't have a single warning to their name.
So although they were taking it very rough in qualifying, they're not taking it that way in the race, and they're not as much on the limits.
Yeah, no, it's not there for sure. It looks like some of the closest battles we have going on in a bout. We have a couple of trains here. We have Gecko with a train consisting of Jack, the Chiller, and Minico. Scyther has a miniature train with Eoin and Blonde right behind him. Knights is picking up a train now with Cryptic and Egg on his tail. So 3 separate trains combining in that time from 2nd down to 11th.
Absolutely. We got DRS for the Chiller and Jack and Minico all following Gecko. These track limits can be very tough. Turn 1, Turn 2, Turn 3, even the exit of Turn 4, Turn 5 when battling. And then on the middle sector, 7 and 8 can be a tricky spot. There's a lot of tricky spots for guides. It depends on how much you want to push the boundaries, though. But if you're not pushing the boundaries a lot, Turn 1 always seems to be the one that gets you every single time. Andrea, the first of our soft guys into the pit lane. We have Knights, Egg, Mintoki, Jack, and Cookie still on softs. So we'll watch what they do in the coming moments.
Yeah, absolutely. With Andrea coming in and onto the medium compound tire, so this is going to be the questioning of when the remaining soft tire guys are going to be coming in to the pits, mainly in that top 10 with Cookie and Jack. I'm wondering when those guys will be coming in.
Well, now with this train, it's Knights, Cryptic, and Egg after, whereas before it was really just Cryptic and Egg battling it out. But this is a really perfect opportunity for Egg to score points for Williams, who are last in the constructors table. And if they want to try to beat Alfa Romeo, today might be the day where they can actually get some more points.
Looks like Cookie and Jack has opted to stay out for an additional lap or so. Looks like the Chiller is getting even closer to Jack, trying to put some extra pressure on him. Also, Minico is also getting close as well, and looks like Knights has decided to come in.
So he's going to go for an undercut possibly on Cryptic and Egg. No surprise there. Egg on the soft tires, Cryptic on the mediums. The Chiller was using a bit of battery on that main straight last time by and was trying to get through on Jack. He couldn't complete anything notable, but Skither is holding on Eoin and Blonde still for 6th place. Skither on the hard tires.
Yeah, Skither still maintaining his pace and everything, but now Jack is going to be running into a bit of trouble because he is now out of the DRS range of Gecko. So now that means he is now going to be vulnerable to the Chiller and Miko on the main straight.
Interesting. So he should pit realistically this lap, is what we're saying.
I would probably say, yeah, he should. And yeah, that's what he's doing.
The Chiller looked like he wanted to go there with him, but he wanted to pick up some slipstream. He got DRS from Jack, meaning Miniko will not be close enough to make any sort of move at all. Skither holding on Eoin, who has the DRS assistance into turn 1, and while opening that rear wing, he closes in, but cannot get the pass done at all. Just a reminder for those of you guys at our halfway point, for those of you tuning in for the first time to RPL, it is a realistic performance league. It is in the name, realistic performance league. So these guys in realistic cars have similar tire wear to what the Ferrari, the Aston, the McLaren, others would in real life. So that's why if you see a Mercedes doing poorly, they had trouble. It's not because the others are simply just better than them.
Yeah, safe to say in that regard, as looks like Mintoki is coming out of the pit lane now, coming out right behind TB in the 15th place position. Jack has come out. He's in 10th right now, but he's on fresh mediums, and these mediums can go the rest of the way. I do wonder let's see if anyone else who's left for the soft tire guys willing to go in. It's currently Egg and Cookie.
The Chiller's in.
But Cookie is still coming out. Yeah, the Chiller is in. This is unusual.
I'm sort of not surprised because of how poor the tire management is for the Ferrari cars. So that's not surprising. Blonde now going for the move on Eoin. 3 abreast for just a second. Eoin luckily backed off, and Blonde got 2 in 1 right there. What a miraculous move that was.
Yeah, Blonde was just a shark line and wait for his prey to tire out, and he chose the right time to strike. And he got 2 in 1 in a turn 1. Very strong stuff for him.
I was just mentioning the Mercedes pair not too long ago, Titan. They've had points in 52 consecutive races. It's been 53 races since the last time they've not scored points. That was back in Canada, Season 8. So TB needs to stay alive here in this race on those tires to have a chance for points.
Yeah, he's really going to have to do something at least. Because, well, currently at the moment, TB on the track map, he's currently going through turn number 4 right now with Mintoki up his tail. And he's got over 8 seconds to catch Egg for that position. And, yeah, Cookie's now in.
No surprise there. Gecko remaining on the track. So does Miniko. Cookie in for mediums. JNT Gaming picks up his first track limit penalty of the day. Only 3 drivers at halfway have penalties. I'm a little surprised about that considering what we saw in qualifying. And Eoin ducking out but not going for the move. And now Andrea is the 4th one to pick up a track limit penalty.
You had to say that. You wound up jinxing yourself again.
Well, I told you to go through and look for some times where commentators jinx things. I think you can just include the whole stream, Titan, when you look back at this. Knights on Vapor.js, the last points position on track. These two on differing strategies. Vapor.js yet to pit. Knights has already. And Knights through on Vapor.js. Vapor.js only a 2nd start, but much more cleaner than Singapore. He was facing the wrong way before halfway. Today, he's still alive in this race and actually may have a chance if a safety car comes out for some points.
Yeah, if the safety car winds up happening, this is going to throw a major wrench into everything that's been happening because there's only a couple of drivers. There's only a small handful yet to pit. There's only 7 drivers left that have yet to pit, and these guys that are left to pit, they're on the harder compound tires. Skither on the hards, Blonde and Miniko on the mediums, Gecko on the mediums. Eoin as well on mediums. This is going to be quite the interesting spectacle, to say the least, for that top 5. I'm wondering what's going to happen next, because, I mean, literally anything can happen. We'll just have to wait and see what's going to happen, as it looks like Skither is all over the back of Blonde to try to go for what's right now currently 3rd place.
Is he going to get elbows out like he did earlier, Blonde, when overtaking? This time he's now defending these spots. He's got DRS applied from behind, from Skither, having tons of battery conserved, 92% right there, compared to Blonde having 56. Eoin recharged for about 32%, and Vapor JS heads to the pit lane to make his first pit stop of the day. He is outperforming teammate George, but that's also because George had his shunt with Jordan. So we'll see in terms of when Vapor JS comes out, where he'll be in comparison to George on the track in terms of their gap, but he goes to mediums, while HSR Gecko, our race leader, picked up a 2nd track limit penalty. This would put him behind Minico. And Cookie, by the way, came out in a perfect spot, Titan, no traffic whatsoever, but the more these guys battle before they pit, it may catch Cookie up and back him up into this traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. As Gecko currently has 6 seconds of penalties. This is not what he wants. This is not what Red Bull wants in order to try to go for a constructor's title here, as TB now into the penalty box, and Skither passing Blonde down the main straight into turn 1, and he is ahead up in the 3rd place at the moment. Cryptic is now into the pits. Taking a look, I just took a look again at the race directors to see what everyone is at. From this top 5, Minico has 1 warning. Skither has 1 warning. Blonde and Eoin don't have anything.
So Cookie is now 1.6 back from Eoin. And I just want to mention one of the records that Cookie tied in qualifying that we did not mention. Luke has the most pole positions at 25. Well, he has pole positions at 16 different circuits. Cookie's pole was his 17th today, and it was at a 16th different circuit, equaling the record. Cookie's now caught up to DRS.
Yeah, Cookie now in the DRS. Now the question is what are the 3 ahead gonna wind up doing? I mean, they're probably gonna. I'm wondering what kind of unique what they're gonna try to do to try to keep Cookie back, but Cookie on the war path to regain those positions that he lost from that pit stop. Let's see what he's got. He's all over the back of Eoin. Minico is in. Eoin has decided to bolt off to the pits now. As
Blonde is going to be
Minico
vulnerable.
still has the DRS with Skither, and Cookie still has to stay behind Skither and Blonde for the time being.
And he goes for
maybe
it!
Not.
Late lunge through for 3rd place. That was a nice dive. And now on his championship rival from earlier this season, Skither battling Cookie. Side by side they go to turn 5. Skither backs off, realizing this is not his race. So Cookie prevails ahead for 2nd place, making it a Red Bull 1-2, but in opposite order.
Yeah, absolutely. And looks like Minico and Eoin have come out from their pits. Minico is currently in the chiller into the penalty box.
And Andrea's lagged out. You'll have to give him an invite back, Titan.
Yeah, I got him.
Wow. The chiller, no surprise there into the penalty box. Cam and him are battling for the penalty standings championship, which is unofficial. With that being said, the Cryptic is on the back of Andrea now. Your race leader Gecko's finally in. TB is battling Mintoki for 13th. Cryptic threw on Andrea, who's lagged out. But let's see where Gecko will come out in comparison to others. Skither and Blonde, yep, you're right. Cookie takes the lead back. Gecko in. And Gecko coming out now. I think near Jack, but has Jack got the upper edge from the undercut? Has DeChiller done the same too? Jack definitely has. DeChiller will be racing Gecko on the exit. DeChiller is through, and now Gecko just barely ahead of Minico. So Jack could be looking for a 2nd place finish for Aston Martin.
Kind of crazy to see that. I mean, literally, yeah, and Aston wound up winning in Singapore, and now tonight you're looking at Aston putting himself into the podium. So Aston, looking at 2 straight weeks, 2 straight podiums. And now on to Chiller, And with the Chiller, who's sitting in third, yes, he has that 3-second penalty, but at the moment, at this present moment, he has Gecko behind, who has 6 seconds, so he doesn't have to worry about Gecko, to be fair. But meanwhile, he has Miniko behind Gecko. Miniko is 4 seconds behind the Chiller. So Miniko has to get at least a second in order to try to steal that spot from him.
Who has fastest lap right now? Cookie does. Okay. So if Skither ends up being overtaken here for 7th place and ends up being in 8th, that will be the title decided as long as he does not claim fastest lap.
Yeah, he's got Blonde right behind him though, so this is gonna be wild here. I mean, to be fair, Blonde is on the softer compound tire, but Scyther, despite being on the harder compound in the first stint, maintain his ground.
Gecko has staggering pace in comparison to the Chiller, and he's going to use that by squeezing him to the curb at turn 5, and Gecko through onto Chiller.
Yeah, Gecko getting past now. He has to pull basically 6 seconds. He has to pull 6 seconds on Miniko and 3 seconds on the Chiller to keep the position that he is in. But now he has Jack to jump down, and I mean literally he's 2 seconds behind Jack. But once he gets past Jack, he has to pull 6 seconds on Jack in order to go for second place.
A lot of people spoke about with Gecko earlier on, why have Red Bull not re-signed him for next season? Well, he's going over to Ferrari. Who is going to be who is it going to be alongside? That has not been decided yet. However, it secretly has. It's Skither he'll be alongside. I'm leaking that information. So the Chiller will have to find a new ride for next season. But this battle from Skither in 7th place right now is a bit of an interesting one. If Ferrari were to maintain him for next season, DRS applied from Blonde, and Skither has fell back. He's down to 8th. And now Knights with Egg. This is a nice little battle down the main straight. Egg claims P9 for Williams. How about that with a nice move on the main straight with DRS applied. Knights down to 10th. And Cryptic right there as well in the thick of things if a penalty does get applied from any of these guys in front.
Yeah, it looks like Gecko is all over the back of Jack now to try to go for that second place. He's really right smack dab up the tail end of Jack here. I think he might. Would he chance for an overtake down there? Yes, he does. And he
caught him
makes
napping.
It work.
Wow. That was nice.
Yeah. I had a feeling he was gonna overtake there because I've done that in a league a few weeks ago. It is doable. It's risky, but it is doable. And Gecko really took that to stride. Now he has to pull 6 seconds over Jack to maintain that second place. And with
but
10 laps to go,
Jack just used 20% of that battery to try to remain in DRS right here because he knew he was about to fall out of DRS, and he's still not done with this fight. The Chiller has been overtaken for 4th place on track from Miniko. He was already going to be overtaken due to the penalties, but Miniko is up to 4th on track now and fighting for this. That is the AlphaTauri a lap down.
Yeah, that's George.
Knights
Looks like
through on Egg.
Knight's not done.
Nice little move there. DRS swaparoo, and the more they do this, the more they catch Cryptic up for P10. TB is back in. Couldn't make the rest of the way on the hards. And Mercedes are facing their first non-points finish in, well, 2 seasons, to put it simply.
Very unfortunate there, to be fair. Very unfortunate to say the least. And currently, at this present moment, we know Mercedes is eliminated from the constructors. I'll have to take a look to see
Ferrari
how...
right now are, based on how they're doing on track, so really just factor in McLaren.
Yeah, and
Ferrari need to beat Red Bull. They need to beat Red Bull. They're not doing that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yep. It's all good. Yeah, so with you confirming that, Ferrari is out of it. McLaren, they are fine. They are fine and should be safe and through. But unfortunately, right now, Skither, who's sitting in 8th, this right now is going to put Cookie as the season 10 champion.
Yeah, very true. And he's on the back of Blonde while Knights is being pressurized by Egg. Egg, back at it. Which way does he go? Knights weaving and bobbing for just a split second, but Egg is back through into P9. So Cryptic is just moments away from picking up DRS in this train, and Skither does not look like he's done with Blonde. And Eoin, this could be very big in terms of what happens toward the championship today.
You know the really funny thing is this is basically a complete role reversal of what
Oh
it
my
was
God.
in the earlier on in the race, because literally you have Eoin, Blonde, and Skither at literally 6th, 7th, and 8th. Earlier it was Skither in 6th, Eoin 7th, and Blonde sitting in the 8th spot.
And ironically, right in front of them, it's Aston, McLaren, Ferrari, just like it is in this battle.
I just noticed that too.
Wow. Well, right now, Gecko has, I think, just barely... No, he doesn't. He doesn't have a buffer over Miniko. Miniko would be getting third, but Miniko barely has the buffer over him. Excuse me on that. 3-car race into turn 1. Put a blanket over them. Here comes Blonde once again. And Skither, can he do what Blonde did now? He's going to try the right side, then the left side to have a chance around the outside. But Blonde through into 6th, Skither into 7th, and Eoin down to 8th. Oh!
Ooh.
My goodness. Now, side by side here, Knights getting through an Egg. Eoin trying to go back at it with a switcheroo. And he has enough momentum to be toward Skither at turn 5, but not enough for an overtake. Skither keeping the championship alive.
Yeah,
TB is eliminated
absolutely,
from that championship, by the way, with currently running 14th. He has to beat Cookie, like we said. Not doing it.
Yeah. Oh man, looks like Eoin just went wide in the braking zone of the Samsung corner. That has cost him a few tenths on Skither right now. That gives Skither a bit of a breathing room and more focus to chase Blonde down. Meanwhile, Skither on the main straight, Skither tried to do this, as she said, the exact same thing Blonde did, but Blonde recognized Skither's positioning and managed to close the door enough to make sure that Skither couldn't warrant a challenge to get himself further up. Skither knows his back is against the wall here for it. As see here, Miniko down the inside into turn 1, clears Jack up into 3rd place.
And Skither gets Blonde. Cryptic also got Egg. 3 different changes there in a span of 30 seconds. And Gecko, by the way, could be taking his first podium in F1 RPL since Season 5 right now.
Well, currently at the moment, he is looking to maintain that 2nd place right now because he is 6.2 seconds clear of Miniko. Yeah, Cryptic being harassed around by both Knights and Egg. This is for the last batch of points between these guys. It looks like Cryptic maintaining his own at the moment. Knights not close enough to warrant an attack. So Cryptic maintaining his 9th place. Knights has to settle in the 10th right now.
Cryptic, man, fair play. George with another track limit penalty. There's yellow flags in the circuit right now. That was for George. I'm going to have to quickly go AFK. In the meantime, I'll put it on the Skither, Blonde, and Eoin battle.
I'll go into that right now as see, it looks like you're on with yep, you're on with Blonde. I'm on with Eoin right now, as Eoin is within DRS of Blonde, but fortunately Blonde is now out of the DRS against Skither, so Skither now has some breathing room to maintain, and has some breathing room. Now has to chase down a teammate. He has to be within 3 seconds of his teammate in order to take that 5th place from him. I think that could be doable, to say the least. Meanwhile, let's see some of the other battles seen on the map. We have Jack still all over the back of Miniko. Miniko is looking at a podium. Most likely, with only 5 laps to go. Meanwhile, Skither was within 3 seconds of the Chiller, so Skither is going to take 5th place from the Chiller because of the penalty. And TB is now back into the pits. I think I have a feeling I know what he's doing. Yes, he is. He's on the soft tires. I think he's going to try to steal fastest lap from Cookie.
Well, not many people have been able to do that this season. Yellow flags. That is J and T. No, it's Andrea, I think.
No, it's
Behind
JT.
George now. They're both a lap down. Here's a look at the penalties, folks, for those of you interested. But, yeah.
I just
Well,
took a look at.
Go ahead.
I just took a look at I just took a look at the things here. Gecko currently has not gotten another warning since his second track limit penalty. Minico is actually at risk of a 3-second penalty. His last warning came at lap 22. Jack has none. The Chiller hasn't gotten enough warning since his penalty. And Skither is only has one. Cookie doesn't have any on him.
Right now, McLaren are doing just enough to stay in the fight with Red Bull. 3rd and 7th with their cars. If Gecko remains in P2, he's doing all he can. But I know how much Jack Miles wants that podium over Minico. He'd be taking a 9th different team to the podium with the help of himself. And if he does get a podium, Jack Miles, I believe he also has another driver that he ends up tying or passing. He ties Malley for all-time podiums at 23 if he gets it today.
Ninth
Ninth
if I
place.
had to take a shot, if I had to take a shot in the dark, so I'm probably gonna say either Williams or Haas. Jack has yet to get podium with.
Aston and Haas. That's it. That's the only 2 teams. Aston he's not had one yet with. He would be getting that next season if he weren't going to it now. And then Haas, it's that's left for him. And a Haas right now is running P10. FRC Knights putting on a good performance. This 3-car race for P9 has been really much the show besides the top 10 today. You would talk about the show yesterday being with George and outside the points and all that whole mess that they had. Well, today's show outside the top 8 or 10 positions has been this 3-car race. 2 of these guys will get points, 1 of these guys won't, and 1 of these guys that doesn't look like they will, being almost a lap down now. Maybe a lap down, I could be wrong. The fake TV.
He is lapped.
Yeah. Mercedes could be ending their point streak, and it looks like it's going to happen unless we have 4 random DNFs. But in the meantime, he'll take fastest lap, though, away from Cookie and Gecko.
And that is actually going to help. That's actually going to help Skither out as well. That means that's at 1.
Jack's going for it.
1 point. Yeah,
Jack's
he is.
going for it, and Jack's through. Jack got turn 1 on Minico
0-2.
quite late. And now the other Aston of Eoin gets blonde.
Yeah, so both Astons making moves on both the McLarens. Minico being overtaken by Jack for 3rd place. Blonde losing 7th place to Eoin. I believe that my memory's right with this in the constructors. I mean, it still keeps McLaren alive, but it's going to have them even further back against the wall in regards to next week's race.
If McLaren lose another place, let's say it's Minico, let's say it's blonde, that is the championship decided right there with Red Bull and McLaren. With fastest lap being taken away, it kind of does make it a little bit trickier, but right now, Red Bull extending their gap, of course, and going for win number 85.
You know, I just also noticed something else looking at the timing boards. Despite that battle between Eoin and Blonde, those 2 are actually closing in. They're actually closing in onto Chiller. Because
Wow.
Skither is actually right on top of him. Makes the overtake. Ferrari switch up. Skither up to 5th place. The Chiller falls to 6th. But the Chiller could potentially lose even more because both Eoin and Blonde, they're gaining ground.
So if Minico loses a place and loses the 2 points that would be needed for Red Bull to clinch it, Blonde can get that back by securing another place through De Chiller's penalty. Egg also gets Knights here for 10th, and these guys have to be careful fighting this out because although they are wearing on tires, Cryptic will be wearing on tires too here on those softs. And we're about to reach the final lap here in a moment time. Cookie will not be able to clinch the championship today as things stands, but one hand will be on that trophy because he'll be extending the championship gap by 15 points over Skither. And today, in order to win it, he needed 22 points to beat Skither by. The final lap is now underway. He's put in a decent performance, but he could also be taking a interesting record, Titan. He would have the most wins from pole in a single season. He has the best percentage of that currently over Luke, but he's tied that record with Luke from 11 wins in pole in season 3. Cookie is 11 this season, trying to get 12.
Oh, something must have just happened because Blonde just overtook Eoin for 7th. I couldn't catch what happened because for some weird reason my controller showed that was nothing happening.
Gaining. Can't do it.
Block it off.
And he's gonna have to try turn 3. He hops the curb.
Whoa.
That might pick you up a track limit penalty. He'll try turn 4. He'll try turn 5. The other available places. Overtake on use. Defending.
Blonde has had to help with DRS because of the lap car of George, but Blonde putting up a staunching fight, trying to keep it together. Just side by side, heading to Samsung. Ooh, this is gonna be tight.
Blonde through. Eoin with the switchback, tagging his rear wheel. Side by side there, crossing the line now for the victory for a 12th win from pole this season. That's a new record. Cookie wins Portugal.
Some hard racing between Blonde and
Gecko.
Blonde and Eoin. They both got a little slipper.
Gecko claims his first podium since season 5, and Jack Miles with a 9th different team is on the podium. It's Aston Martin. And will this be a fight to the line? You were mentioning Blonde and Eoin. Blonde will remain for 7th over Eoin. And it's a safety car free race in Portimao too, with Cryptic hanging on from Egg. Can Egg make a last-ditch effort to get 1 extra point for Williams here? Cryptic running out of battery, so is Egg. Cryptic hangs on. In his 2 races this season, whether it's AlphaTauri or Alpine, he remains with a 100% point streak in the races he's done. Cryptic hangs on, Egg hangs on, Knights P11, and Mercedes. For the first time in 406 days in Tier 1, they will not see points.
Wow-wee.
Vapor JS is the last one across the line, but Cookie conquers Portimao, winning once again. It is his 13th win on the season, Red Bull's 85th all-time, and as for Cookie's all-time amount, 14, putting him 11 behind second-place man Skither, the guy that he can end up getting next week with one hand on the trophy. Just needs the other hand on it next week. Right now, I think that other hand is just on those control buttons right now to try to get another race victory next week. Cookie wins from pole position for the 12th time in a season. That's a new record over Luke in season 3. Gecko gets his first podium in RPL Tier 1 since season 5, tying the great Joe Loke, and Jack Miles, a 23rd different podium. Aston's 25th, but his first with Aston comes in Portimao. His first race with the team, 1, 2, 3 in qualifying, end up 1, 2, 3 in the race. Jack was struggling with that car when practicing this week, Titan, but he is able to pull off the upset, getting the podium over Minico, 4th place again in his switch to McLaren. So those 2 switches seem like they've worked out. Here are your final results.
What a race there. So, yeah, as mentioned, both championships are not won tonight. They will definitely be decided likely next week. But yeah, that is the results there. What a race, to say the least. And I mean, in regards to driver of the day, there are 2 people. I think there's 2 people, maybe 3, that I would put as good contenders for driver of the day. Because you have Gecko, who, despite having those 6 seconds of track limit penalties, maintained and got himself his first podium in 5 seasons. You have Jack, who got a podium for the 9th team in RPL history. That leaves only Haas for him to get a podium with. And then the last person that's also contended for driver today, well, it would be Egg, putting on a strong performance at both qualifying and handling himself well in the race to finish in 10th, getting himself a point for the Williams.
I think my 3 contenders for driver of the day include Jack, Cryptic, and Egg. Cryptic put the Alpine in 9th from starting P15 and had a really great race, actually. Cryptic has had a lot of doubters in the last how many ever seasons of RPL. You look at him and Jack Miles' podium count. Jack having 23 now, Cryptic having 21, Cryptic having most of those in top cars, Jack having those in 9 different cars. So, of course, Cryptic has reasonable criticism come his way, but a 9th place in an Alpine does not come often, especially when you had the top 5 best cars in Q3, and Alpine was not one of them. Egg got points in the Williams once again, and this time it was on merit, not just the steward's office. And Jack Miles, I think, would get the edge over Gecko for being in this decision, because although Gecko had a really good performance and returned to the podium, he deserves massive credit for it. Jack Miles did that in an Aston Martin, qualifying up there and held his ground, finished P3 after qualifying P3. And earlier on this week, he felt this car was unstable and he didn't look like he was going to do much with it based on the amount of complaining he was doing, but I don't think he's going to be complaining much longer with a podium for this team. And he held off Minico. Minico switched to the McLaren, which is supposed to be a faster car than the Aston Martin. Jack Miles, fair play. I don't know if I'd give it drive of the day out of everybody there, out of the 3 that I chose, but I don't know. Those are my 3 I'd put in contention for it.
Yeah, so seems we agreed on Egg and Jack being contenders, but we differed on the third person. Me going with Gecko, and you going with Cryptic. I mean, right to anyone that's watching, still watching on the stream, why don't you guys let us know who do you think will be driver today? And when this race goes up on the YouTube, let us know in the comments. Who do you think will be driver today?
Well, we have had Japan be an interesting one in RPL, and we're going there next week. It shall be an interesting one once again, where the championship can be won. I don't think we've ever had the championship in Tier 1 get won at Japan. Here are the tracks that the championship has been won at from the drivers section. Brazil, Mexico, Abu Dhabi, Hungary, Monza, and Russia. I don't think we're going to have it at one of those tracks again with the way things are looking, because Skither will need to beat Cookie in Japan. But a wheel driver's favorite track is next week, Japan. We'll have to have you guys tune in for the action for that race. Vegas after that time will be the 200th scheduled Tier 1 race. We obviously had 2 races canceled prior, so maybe we'll do something special for Vegas. I don't know. It's a home race for both of us, so that'll be nice. Not home, if you think about it. If you're talking about home specifically, we'll call it Beatnik, but in the meantime, we'll have to look forward to the upcoming events in RPL Tier 1. Tier 2 first will kick off next week in Canada. We'll be there for Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Canada next week in Tier 2 to kick off the weekend, with Japan ending off the weekend in Tier 1 for the events here at RPL. If you want to tune into some action, we'll have the action up on the YouTube with race highlights and much more to look forward to, and a new RPL Feuds video coming out, so make sure you put notifications on for that one. In the meantime, RPL Titan Iron Wolf, Ryan Searles, both of us, signing off for the event tonight. We'll see you guys next week for Japan, where things will kick off for championship weekend, it looks like. Until next time, folks, have a good one, and we will see you then next week. Goodbye.